Hey everyone, in today's video I'm going to compare the Microsoft Surface Laptop 2 with the Surface Pro 6 from the perspective of a visual content creator, somebody who uses computers to create art, graphic design, who edits photos and videos on a daily basis. Now this video is going to be a bit long because I want it to be as detailed as possible. But if you want to save some time, you can actually check out the text review that I have already written on my blog. The link is in the video description below. First of all, big thanks to Microsoft Singapore for making this video possible by sending over this review unit. Now, I have actually reviewed the first generation of the Surface laptop before. The main changes would be the jump from the old dual-core processor to the quad-core processors that are currently being used here. There are no external design changes, so I thought it may be more helpful to compare the Surface Pro versus the Surface Laptop 2 because the specifications are pretty similar except for the form factor difference. Let's talk about the design first. Now, both computers are very portable. The Surface Pro 6 is a tablet that does not come with any keyboard. You can buy a keyboard separately. You can choose between the Microsoft Surface type cover, or you can get one of those Bluetooth keyboard. This is the one that I'm using. I chose this over the Surface type cover because I can use this with multiple devices like my phone, my projector, and my other computer. I find these to be more versatile. If you do get the Surface type cover, then the functionality, the form and functionality of the Surface Pro 6 would be no different compared to the Surface laptop. The main differentiating factor between these two is ultimately the Surface Pro 6 is designed as a tablet, so it can be used as one. If you want to be drawing on a screen, this is the one to go for. You can draw on this screen as well. This is a touch screen that supports the Surface Pen. So you can draw on this as well, but I mean, this is a laptop. It's going to be a bit awkward to draw on. You can certainly take notes on this, short notes, but writing very long documents is not going to be as comfortable compared to writing or drawing on the Surface Pro 6. The Surface Pro 6 weighs 775 grams while the Surface Laptop 2 weighs 1.25 kg. This is 475 grams heavier compared to the tablet, but once you add the Surface type cover to the tablet, then the weight difference is not that significant. Now, both devices are very thin, they look very sleek. These are the ports on the left side of the devices. So on the Surface Pro, we have a 3.5mm audio jack. On the Surface Laptop, we have this full-size USB 3 port, mini display port, and a 3.5mm audio jack. Now, both devices, they are very thin. On the other side, on the Surface Pro 6, we have the Surface port. This is for charging the tablet. This is a full-size USB 3 port, mini display port, and on the Surface Laptop, we have the Surface port here. Now, the selection of ports on both devices, they are exactly the same, just that the positions of the ports, they are located at different places. There's actually another port on the Surface Pro 6 and it's hidden behind the stand. That's the micro SD card reader. This is a fantastic inclusion because nowadays you can get micro SD cards with really huge capacities at pretty affordable prices. For example, a 400 gigs SanDisk micro SD card is around US $100. So this is a very affordable way to increase the capacity, the storage capacity of your devices. Since we are talking about money, let's take a look at the pricing. At the time of this review, the price of the Surface Laptop 2 with 256 gigs of storage, 8 gigs of RAM, and Intel i5 processor, this is US $999 from the Microsoft Web Store. And the Surface Pro 6 with the same specification, this is $200 more expensive. This is US $1,199. I believe they have some sort of promotion going on currently, and at this price, at around US $1,000, I think it's pretty worth it for this sort of specifications for a laptop. When I look at the Surface Pro 6, this is a bit pricey, especially when you consider that there's no keyboard included. So if you add that Surface type cover, this is going to be even more expensive compared to the Surface Laptop 2. And both devices, they have the same specifications. Anyway, the price will change depending on what sort of promotion they are running on that particular day. So let's take a look at this configuration. 16 gigs of RAM, Intel i7 and 500 gigs of storage. This is US 1,899, and for the Surface Pro, it's exactly the same price. So in this case here, they are both at the same price. So personally, I would think this is actually more worth the money because you have the keyboard. But if you need to draw on your screen often, then this is obviously the better choice. Whenever I review any tech products on my YouTube channel, there will be people in the comment section saying that the product is too expensive, too pricey. Anyway, whether or not it's worth your money really depends on your expectations and the type of work that you do. The colors on both screens look great out of the box, so you probably do not need any additional color calibration. But I did color calibrate both screens and I got a readout of 99% sRGB support on the Surface Pro 6 and surprisingly 92% sRGB support on the Surface Laptop 2. I calibrated it a few times and got similar results here. Anyway, the level of color accuracy is more than sufficient for me for the type of work that I do, photo editing and video editing. If I need more accurate colors, I will connect the devices to an external Adobe RGB monitor to get those accurate colors. To connect to an external monitor, you can use the included mini display port. Now I'm actually quite surprised that they still have this port included here when a lot of laptops nowadays have moved on to using USB-C ports. I'm still using many devices that are using these two ports, so personally for me they are rather convenient, but USB-C really is the future because it's way more versatile. You can use USB-C for charging, you can connect an external monitor to USB-C, and if it has Thunderbolt 3 as well, you can connect an external graphics card to it. Hopefully Microsoft can update these two ports to USB-C for the next model, because this is actually the only thing that is preventing me from saying that the Surface Laptop is an excellent laptop. And now let's talk about the performance. Now with the previous models for the Surface Laptop and the Surface Pro 6, they were using the dual-core 2.5 or the 2.6 GHz processors. Now this has been upgraded to the quad-core 1.8 GHz processor, and this is significantly better in performance compared to the previous model. In fact, this is almost like 2 times faster when it comes to exporting photos, exporting videos. Here I have 100 raw files. Each file is actually a 16 megapixel photo. When I exported these files using the Surface Laptop 2, it took me 4 minutes and 12 seconds. With the previous model, it took me 8 minutes and 26 seconds. So this new model here, this is 2 times faster than the previous dual-core processor. This is fantastic. Editing photos on this screen is more enjoyable compared to the Surface Pro 6, mainly because this is a larger 13.5-inch screen versus the 12.3-inch screen. And also the color accuracy, it's pretty good. Now notice as I tap on the screen wobbles slightly. If I tap on the Surface Pro 6, it doesn't shake. So it wobbles slightly, but this is to be expected. It's a laptop. The resolution of this screen, however, is actually lower compared to the Surface Pro 6. So this resolution is 2256 by 1504, while the Surface Pro 6 has a resolution of 2736 by 1824. So it has high resolution. On a smaller screen, everything looks a bit sharper compared to the Surface Laptop, but at this level of sharpness, this is more than sufficient enough for, I think, most people. If you are seated at one arm's length away, which I'm doing so right now, you won't be able to see the individual pixels. So what's the advantage of having a higher resolution screen? Well, with a higher resolution screen, you have more pixels, and with more pixels, you will be able to see more content. So for example, let's take a look at this photo of 6 markers. going to open this as well. Now I'm going to zoom in at 100%. So at 100%, I can see 5 markers. At 100%, I can only see 4 markers. Because I have more resolution on this screen, I can see more of the photo. More of the photo is able to squeeze into the number of pixels here, and there are more pixels here, so you can see more. But there are less pixels here, so I can only see a smaller portion of the photo. In the real world, the difference in resolution doesn't really affect my workflow, but with higher resolution, you can see more of the photo, you can see the photo with greater detail, and that I think benefits photographers and video editors. Another thing to note about the screens is the Surface Pro 6 seems to have a brighter screen. Both are sufficiently bright, but this looks brighter to me. And both screens, by the way, they are reflective and very glossy, so it's going to be very challenging to use this screen outdoors. Or if you are using this in an office environment, there are lights above you and behind you. You may see some reflections here. But right now, I'm in a room with light from the left side, so I mean, this looks pretty alright, pretty fine. When it comes to editing and exporting videos with the new quad-core processor, this is significantly faster. So for example, if I were to export a 10-minute 1080p clip using this, it takes around 20 minutes. With the previous model, it's more than 40 minutes, so the time savings here is really significant. Exporting videos is way more time consuming compared to exporting photos, so with the new quad-core processors, this is now a way more viable portable video editing laptop. Here are some readings while a video is exporting in the background on the Surface laptop. So I can see the CPU utilization and the speed, they fluctuate quite significantly, and this speed is way below the base clock speed of 1.8 GHz. So when you're doing processor intensive tasks, you may get some speed throttling, especially when the processor gets too hot and the fans are not able to cool down the processor sufficiently. This speed is actually highly dependent on the temperature of your surrounding. So if you are in an air-conditioned room where the temperature is lower, you can actually see higher speed. The speed that I usually see is around 2.2 GHz when my room is cool, but when it's hot, this is the temperature I get. The Surface laptop has fans to help with the cooling, but how effective it's going to be really depends on the temperature of your surrounding. Now the fans, they do not come on that often, they only come on during photo or video exports. Now the Surface Pro i5 model doesn't have any fan, so once it gets down to that low speed, it's going to remain there for the whole duration of the video export. If you want better performance, it's better to get the i7 model with the fans, but fans in such compact systems, they don't really cool down the device that effectively compared to larger laptops. And I really enjoyed working with the 3:2 aspect ratio screen. When your screen is small, any extra vertical resolution is welcome. For example, here with Adobe Premiere Pro, which is a video editing software, with the extra resolution, I can afford to see more of the timeline. I can still see the player rather large here. With a 16:9 aspect ratio screen, it's going to be more squashed, so the timeline is going to be very squashed. Now, 16:9 is great if your monitor is larger, if your resolution is larger, but if your screen is smaller, 3:2 or 16:10 aspect ratio, I think it's better for productivity. When it comes to doing graphic design work, the performance is overall quite snappy. So now I'm going to open up a multi-layered Photoshop file that is 900 megabytes. It's a huge file, it takes a few seconds to open, but I would say the read speed of the SSD storage in this laptop is quite fast. So this is the file. Now navigation wise, when it comes to zooming, panning and rotating, it's pretty fluid, which is great. When it comes to doing adjustments, you can see the updates relatively quick. So the updates, they has some slight lag, but it's not the irritating type of lag, so they still update pretty quickly. So basic graphic design work, no problem at all with Photoshop. This is Adobe Illustrator. The navigation seems to be quite fluid as well. Now, when it comes to working with files where the dimension is pretty big, I would usually connect the Surface Laptop to my external monitor. So right now I have connected the Surface Laptop to my external monitor, and this is where it would actually make more sense to use a wireless keyboard rather than the keyboard on the Surface Laptop, because if I were to use the keyboard, I have to open the screen like this, and in this case my table doesn't have a lot of space, so it's going to block my screen. So I would just flip this down and use my wireless keyboard instead. The Surface Laptop has no issues driving a 4K screen. Battery life for the Surface Laptop and the Surface Pro is quite comparable. I would say you can get around 5 to 6 hours. Again, it depends on the type of work that you do and also the brightness of your screen. But overall, the Surface Laptop probably has slightly better battery life. I think I pretty much covered everything I wanted to say. If I left out anything, you can find them in the text review. That's where all the updates will be. So to conclude, which device to get really depends on your work. It depends on your workflow. If you are someone who needs to write or draw a lot, who needs to use the pen, then obviously getting the Surface Pro 6, this is the more obvious choice. But if you do not have any specific need for the pen, then I think it's a 50-50 toss-up. Personally, for me, if I do not need to use the pen, I would go with the Surface Laptop 2 because it comes with a really nice keyboard. The Alcantara texture here, it's really nice to type on, to rest your hands on. With the Surface Pro 6, you have to spend extra money to get the type cover, unless you go with other brands. Now, one thing I do like about the Surface Pro 6 is the inclusion of the micro SD card reader. So with that, you can actually expand your storage capacity at a pretty reasonable price, like US $100. You can get 400 gigs worth of extra storage. That's really worth the money. But if you want extra storage on the Surface Laptop, you would have to pay more money, significantly more, to upgrade the storage. When it comes to performance, both are pretty similar. The Surface Laptop is actually better in performance, even though both have the same specifications, because there are fans inside that help cool the processor. But those are not magic fans, so don't expect miracle work from them. Ultimately, when it becomes hot, the speed is going to throttle. But overall performance, even when it's throttling, you can still work on your web pages while the video is exporting in the background. So overall performance is still very snappy. And for the price that you pay for such a laptop, if it's really selling, if the model with 8 gigs of RAM and 256 gigs of storage is really selling at US $1,000, I think it's worth it. The build quality is excellent and the performance, I think it matches the price point. So that's all for this comparison review. If you are using the Surface Laptop 2 or the Surface Pro 6, I would love to hear from you. I would like to find out from you what you like or dislike about your devices. So that's all for today's video. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know in the comment section below. Bye!